Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I'm Willie Bragg. I'm usually not here on a Sunday night, but I'm off on Sunday nights. But I'm usually like half asleep or just doing whatever, and kind of barely waking up, eating, and just kind of doing my thing. So I decided, I usually do a live stream on Monday half the time. So I guess you can call this like my Monday night live stream. I decided to do it tonight. So so that will explain that for this evening. So anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. It looks like we have Miguel over here on the chat line. He came in a little bit before everyone else. How are you doing today? And Commissary Kate, how are you doing today? Hopefully Willie doesn't have to go to work. I want Willie to go all night. How are you doing, Commissary Kate? I am here tonight. I'm off usually on Sundays. So that's a good thing. Any night I'm off is a good thing. Um, so um, so I mean, as I said, I usually am kind of like waking up, and I just did. Today's my carb day. I've been doing a modified keto diet, trying to lose the weight, but today's the day that I could go crazy on the carbs and not really give a damn. So I ate some Philly cheesesteak earlier. No offense to anybody who's vegetarian, but I ate some Philly cheesesteak today with actual bread instead of doing it without the bread. So that was nice. Otherwise, I'm having just roast beef. Roast beef with provolone cheese and peppers and mushrooms on it. So John Ross, how are you doing tonight? I'm doing well, and I hope you are as well. CBC voter. Uh, yeah, well, I wish I was high. It's been years since I've been high. I'm not opposed to being high. I'm no stranger to being high. So there we go. So anyway, I let's talk foreign policy, shall we? Let's talk about uh, let's talk about selective hypocrisy, because Max Blumenthal once said in a conversation with Aaron Matei from the Gray Zone that when it comes to the two-party system, I'm kind of paraphrasing a conversation they had one time, that when George W. Bush was president and when it came to the war in Iraq, the evangelical Christians, it was the war against the civilizations. It was the Christian West versus Islam. It was that kind of mindset. And the Democrats, or some Democrats, were opposed to the war. And then Trump came along, and all of a sudden, the Republicans were suddenly anti-war, and the Democrats became hawks or pro-war. And it certainly looked like that was going to be the case for a while. And certainly Donald Trump campaigned in 2016 and 2020 and 2024 as kind of like an anti-war candidate. And in some ways, it was halfway convincing. Not 100%, but I will argue during the first Trump presidency, there was less aggression. Not perfect, not perfect, not perfect. He did some fucked up things. I mean, with the drone strike bombings in Baghdad that killed General Qasem Soleimani, which was a war crime. And he continued drone strikes aggressively during that Trump presidency. But I mean, when they say no new wars, there might have been some teeth to that. Also, COVID caused the situation, I would say, around the world, where I think that maybe wars were kind of on halt for a while. And I think that during the first Trump presidency, you had an ideological struggle going on, not just between the red-hatted MAGA people and the pink pussy hat liberal resistance, but you also had a power struggle going on inside the Republican Party between the MAGA Trump people and the never Trumpers, and even in the administration between the establishment people who were kind of resentful toward Trump and the MAGA people. So I think that in some ways it kind of created a chaotic situation where the United States accidentally by default were for a brief moment in time slightly less fucked up, less aggressive. They still did some stupid and shitty things. I mean, they tried to remove in 2019, try to remove Nicolas Maduro, which they did 2 weeks ago, but they tried in 2019 and 2020 try to remove Nicolas Maduro the first time around. They removed Evo Morales down in Bolivia. So there was some fucked up things that was being done under Trump that was an extension of the Bush-Cheney doctrine. And the Bush-Cheney doctrine continued under Obama, and it continued under Joe Biden. The Bush-Cheney doctrine just keeps going and going and going and going. I was not happy when Trump won in 2024, but I had a faint, small tinge of hope that the Russian-Ukraine war would end. I did have that little bit of hope that did not, unfortunately, did not take place. So, it's like, God damn it, because I figured that maybe I never believed that Trump and Putin were like, in cahoots with each other, but I thought that maybe Trump could have been kind of a negotiating figure doing the art of the deal with Russia and Ukraine in a way that would have been effective. I actually thought that was going to be a thing where the demands were reasonable, where Ukraine will not become a member of NATO, and it shouldn't be a member of NATO, and all that. But that didn't take place, and the U.S. foreign policy toward Ukraine maybe not as overtly. Yeah, I like what you said, Warren. Hey, Warren, I like what you said. Part of the deal, aptly put. So, thing about it is, neoconservatism in a nutshell is alive and well, and so a lot of the Trump supporters and a lot of Republicans who used to lecture me that their side or the anti-war side all along, and that the people on my side, as if I was a Democrat. I'm not. The people on your side are the real neoconservatives. And they couldn't. And 20 years ago, they couldn't get enough of licking the boot and licking the assholes of neoconservatives. Of course, they never call the people on their side that they were kissing up to as neoconservatives, because that's just not a cool term to call someone. But they loved the policy, they just didn't like the terminology. And I will argue that's always been the case, even with many of them, even the ones who claim that they were anti-war, because certain things never changed. It became very easy for them to say they opposed the Iraq war. It became very easy, because that was a fucking disaster. I mean, anybody could see that was a disaster from the get-go. I mean, so, I don't know why people believe there were weapons of mass destruction, but they really fell for it for many years, just like people believe that Maduro is a narco-terrorist. who the fuck believes that? You know, I mean, who the fuck believes these things? It's ridiculous. So, or some of the things that people will be saying. So, here's the thing. Neoconservatism is alive and well. Now, there's been a crack in the MAGA coalition, on certain areas where you would have never thought there would have been a crack. Was what happened on October 7th, 2023. Hamas, when Hamas went into, the situation between Gaza and Israel, where Israel committing a genocide against the Palestinians in Gaza. And it got to such a point where some conservatives were like, they supported Israel all their lives, but they were like, I don't know about this. This is not what I bargained for. It's like this is a little too much here. So you have some people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, and I don't want to say Nick Fuentes because the policy of criticizing Israel is correct in his, but hating the Jews part is the wrong part. You criticize Israel because Israel's being a piece of shit right now, not because they're Jewish people, but because they're individuals doing bad things to other individuals. But Nick Fuentes' case is because they're Jews, and Jews are to be despised by Nick Fuentes. So in his case, he can fuck off. And in most instances, Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson can fuck off on all instances and most things. But they're not wrong to criticize Israel because they're criticizing Israel. They're not criticizing Jewish people for what's going on, which is a crime against humanity by Benjamin Netanyahu and the IDF and the people in his cabinet against what's going on in Gaza, against the majority innocent people over there in Gaza. And we're not just talking about the Muslims there, which is one death too many. We're also talking about Christians. I had to tell somebody last night that somebody thought that the Palestinians do not tolerate Christians in their communities in Gaza and the West Bank. I said, no, they have a thriving Christian. I mean, not a thriving Christian community, but there are Christians that live there. They're Palestinian Christians. And their churches get bombed too, just as much as the mosque get bombed. And so, think about it is, and some people in the Christian community here in the United States are starting to realize this. And there's been a crack in the MAGA coalition in that regard. Unfortunately, the Ben Shapiros and the Mark Levins are kind of winning Trump over, and Trump has lost some influence from the Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens in the areas where they are correct. The stop clock giving the right time twice a day. And here's the thing: when I say people I do not like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, to make it clear, I otherwise do not like them. If I have to go and say, well, I agree with them this time, some people will take it the wrong way, that just because you agree with them on this point or that point, and you make it clear this is where you agree with them and you don't agree with them otherwise, some people will blow it out of proportion that you're somehow some kind of bootlicker or some kind of fan of theirs, and that's just not the case. Just because somebody's right once in a while, when they're wrong 80 or 90 or 95% of the time, does not mean that you agree with them just this one time or two or three other times, whereas 95% of the time or 90% of the time they're wrong, meaning that you're just somehow their biggest supporters. um, I for some reason, some people reject nuance a whole lot in our society, and as if that's what they want to do. They want to be just contrarian in that regard. So I wanted to make that point clear because I know how people are. So before we get started, I always like to, when I think about it, get a little bit of levity just to just kind of relax people and all that. So it's not directly related to what we're talking about, but it's always good to have to start with just a little bit of humor. So let me get started here. And let's see. Let me do this first. Let's see. Let me do this first. Okay. And then let me do this. Okay. All right. So, all right. Is this it? This is it. This is it here. Okay. All right. Watch this and be entertained. Hold on a second. Give me a second here. I'm sorry. Whew. Okay. Let me get it on the thing. I apologize. Let me get it correctly. Here we go. I apologize. This is the way Facebook works.
Do you constantly wonder what's in other people's pants? Do you your own pants when you see a minivan with a coexist sticker? Do you look like Bobby Hill having an allergic reaction to peanuts? Do you flirt with sex bots on Threads and X? Do you have a Grindr account that your battered wife doesn't know about? Do you call yourself a Christian but still want to torment the less fortunate? Did you cry like a little baby for 2 years because you had to wear a mask, but now you want to wear one to hide your identity? Do you post into the void on Facebook all day because your friends and family no longer speak to you? Do you have several DUIs and a possession charge but still want to enforce the law? Do you unconditionally worship a Are you not allowed within 500 feet of a school? Do you instantly believe the AI slop you see online but get viscerally angry when presented with a fact? Do you smell like Bush Light, Pall Malls, and taint sweat? Do you get winded when you climb a flight of stairs? Would your search history get you arrested if the FBI weren't already on your side? Do you hate your neighbors who are smarter and more successful than you and want to get revenge? If so, join ICE. Tell yourself you're a rebel by following unconstitutional orders from someone who will never know or care that you exist. No one can tread on you because you'll be devouring the boot. Compensate for your micro by innocent teenagers. Those blue hairs will never hurt your feelings with their fashion choices or unwillingness to you again. Stick it to those academics and intellectuals by doing exactly what they said you would do. No one will miss you when you're gone. So join our team at ICE. ICE, arming the village idiot since 2003.
Isn't that the truth? So it is my duty and should be everybody's duty to make fun of ICE and insult ICE and undermine ICE every chance you can get within democratic, small d, peaceful means. So, and I have to say that because the Trump administration wants to declare martial law and they want to suspend the midterms, and that's what they're looking for. So, peaceful resistance, folks. Peaceful resistance. That is the key. Gandhi did it. MLK did it. We need to do it and this is what it's going to take. So that's what I argue for. So anyway, so getting back to what I have to say, I'll get back to what I have to say here, and with regard to um, what's happening. Um, yeah, as I said, and there's like for example, with the unaliving of Charlie Kirk, there's a power struggle also going on within Toilet Paper USA, and the Ben Shapiro's want to win influence in there, and it kind of looks like they are going to win influence in there if they haven't already. And I don't have the video clip, but I think it was called Amfest or something like that, where Ben Shapiro made a speech, and I think Mark Levin made a speech there. I'm not sure, but the about how their vision was something akin to the real America First or what have you. And so Trump's movement, that was initially the American First movement that came about, was kind of paleo-conservative or masqueraded itself as such with the themes America First. It was supposed to be, we're going to take care of ourselves and yada, yada, yada. And in its most benign sense, I don't really take too much with it, because in negativity, in the sense that there were people in that coalition that had anti-war sentiments. It's not that they were necessarily dovish, but they did share some anti-war sentiments by the practice, and some of them seemed sincere. I went to Rage Against the War Machine in 2023. And there were people out there that were on the right. It actually looked like a left-wing protest. Looked like any left-wing protest I've ever been to. But I did recognize the right-wing elements. I didn't want to associate with them because I'm tribalistic like that. But I recognized the leftists out there. I recognized the libertarian crowd that was out there, and I recognized the overtly right-wing crowd that was out there. I have a keen eye on this sort of thing. So, but my point is that I do think that there are people on the right. I may disagree with them on the various issues that are anti-war, and because I started to see them at protests during the latter years of George W. Bush. Some of them started to attend the anti-Iraq war events, and they kind of admitted that the left were correct, that the liberals and the progressives who were anti-war and the actual left, that they were all correct all along. Some of them initially supported the Bush-Cheney doctrine, and they're like, man, this is fucked up, what we're doing. And so they started coming to these events. And I'm the kind of person that listen, if you had a previously reactionary position, and you realize it, and you want to be part of the solution, I'm not going to turn you away. That's where I'm at. Like, I'm hearing people today, some liberal progressives today, saying, now there are people who voted for Trump 3 times and who were pretty harsh in their politics, and then they have kind of made a change or had the buyer's remorse over Trump and have turned against Trump for various reasons, and now they're like, you caused this, fuck you. Look, if they have turned anti-Trump, just take it at face value. They have turned anti-Trump, embrace them, and take it from there. and built the pieces to do what we can to go and make the country better. I know it's the United States, be it as may. So let's go back to a history a little bit, and I got a little bit long winded, and I'm sorry. So let's go with a little bit of history. Remember when Donald Trump and Jeb Bush were duking it out? Well, actually, before we do that, let's go with we'll go with that first. Okay. You had Donald Trump and Jeb Bush battling it out. And I have something to say about this.
Let me just tell you this. Jeb is so wrong. Jeb is absolutely so. That's just so you understand. You know what that is? That's Jeb's special interest and lobbyists talking. Look, let me just tell you something. Jeb is so wrong. You got to fight ISIS first. You fight ISIS first. Right now, you have Russia, you have Iran, you have them with Assad, and you have them with Syria. You have to knock out ISIS. They're chopping off heads. These are animals. You have to knock them out. You have to knock them off strong. You decide what to do after. You can't fight two wars at one time. If you listen to him and you listen to some of the folks that I've been listening to, that's why we've been in the Middle East for 15 years, and we haven't won anything. We've spent $5 trillion in the Middle East because of thinking like that. We've spent and Lindsey Graham, who backs him, who had 0 on his poll. So let me just tell you something. We've spent. I only tell the truth, lobbyists. We've spent $5 trillion all over the middle. We have to rebuild our country. We have to rebuild our infrastructure. You listen to that, you're going to be there for another 15 years.
All right, Governor Bush, please respond.
Okay. That was the South Carolina debate. And what was actually interesting about that South Carolina debate, if you ever want to watch it, it's kind of long. He was going after Ted Cruz. He was going after Marco Rubio in the same way he went after Jeb Bush. One of my favorite lines from that debate was when Jeb Bush says, he said, you just can't insult your way into the White House. I was like, he just did that year. He did. He insulted his way into the White House. But here's the thing. I mean, he was not wrong what he was saying about. I mean, he was wrong about getting a kind of doing the little quick aggressive thing. Needed to go and get the fuck out of the Middle East completely. But in the speech and in the debates, he was also in that South Carolina primary. He actually made some points that he was opposed to the Iraq War, and they were booing at him, while Marco Rubio saying George W. Bush kept us safe, and Ted Cruz saying the same thing, and so was Jeb Bush, and they were all doing the Bush-Cheney doctrine apologetics, which was dumb as hell. And he was pretty much refuting it for the most part. So, as I said, it was very long, the video. I wish I could play it. I just don't have the time, and it might bore the hell out of you if you hear it the whole hour. I just didn't have the energy to get all the clippings together. But trust me, there were some juicy parts in that video. I do remember it well. So the thing is that there was this thing called the Never Trump movement that evolved. There's a misconception about the Never Trump movement. A lot of people love the Never Trumpers because they thought, oh, these were the responsible, centrist, moderate Republicans who think that they couldn't vote for Donald Trump in 2016 because, he's so far right. Truth be told, there was a lot of Republicans that did fit that description, but there was another branch of Never Trumpers. They were the Never Trumpers who thought that Trump was too liberal. And I'm going to play you one of them. Somebody I really despise. And he is one of the worst people on talk radio, like an older Ben Shapiro, and you know who I'm talking about. I'll play him right now.
I back Cruz. No, I back Cruz, and I'm going to continue to back Cruz. I am not voting for Donald Trump.
This is Mark Levin, radio talk show host, served in the Ronald Reagan administration in the Justice Department under Ed Meese. Radio right-wing talk show host. He was a Ted Cruz supporter in 2016, and he was a never Trumper who said he did not vote for Donald Trump. You heard him in the beginning. I just wanted you to play that part. This is a very short clip. I'll go ahead and play it for you all the way through. So we'll play it all the way through. So listen, I got to go. I have a lot to say about this.
No, I back Cruz, and I'm going to continue to back Cruz. I am not voting for Donald Trump. Period. That coverage last night, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern, wasn't that a lot of fun? We didn't want to go off the air. Those of you who listened, when I got off the air, you should have been feeling pretty well because we could see the pattern developing. Could see the pattern developing. It could see that there was really no way for Hillary Clinton to win. And she lost. And I loved every minute of it. And we congratulated the Trump campaign. We congratulated Governor Pence. And but more than them, I want to congratulate my fellow constitutional conservatives, you Levinites out there. This was tough for a lot of people. But when we really focused in, when we really crystallized on this, we knew we had to do damage control, and we knew we needed to defeat Hillary Clinton. And you did. And without conservatives voting for Trump, he wouldn't have won. You know, one of his top campaign guys contacted me and said, I don't think we're going to pull this out. I didn't tell you that because I didn't want to dispirit any of you. Those early exit polls showed North Carolina leading Clinton, Florida leaning Clinton. That's why early in my program, I kept saying, get out and vote, get out and vote, get out and vote. I'm looking at something. It's close. And I had to be very careful not to drag people down. And on the other hand, not to give people false hope. Just become activated. Now, I don't know how you people put up with it. I really don't. These groupies on TV and radio, like it's fifth grade, vying for whether they were the first to support Donald Trump or not. I was not the first to support Donald Trump. I certainly was not. And I don't know any principled conservative who was. It wasn't until later when we held his feet to the fire after he got the nomination in August and then September, insisting that he embrace conservative principles, insisting that he speak to the base and stop talking to Bernie Sanders supporters, insisting that he ignore the pom-pom boys and girls and the Rockettes and the media and the surrogates and start paying attention to Reaganites, Tea Party activists, constitutional conservatives. Then we would get behind him. And guess what happened? That's what he did. And he ran on one of the most conservative policy records and agendas of any modern president. Far more than McCain, far more than Romney. We have every reason to be happy, every reason to celebrate. You made this possible. You.
Yeah, one more reason to dislike Donald Trump is what Mark Levin said after Donald Trump got elected in 2016. Now, I think he was putting up a front right after 2016, but I think that the more conservative Trump became on some policy issues. And honestly, during Trump's first term, I would argue that he probably governed slightly to the left of George W. Bush. But now he makes George W. Bush look like Jimmy Carter on a good day. And that's pretty damn hard for me to say, because I used to regard George W. Bush as one of the worst presidents ever. Still kind of do, but Donald Trump is trying to win that prize right now. He just did not tally up the lives of people that George W. Bush expired during his 8 years that he and Cheney tabulated with their 7 wars. So thing is that I don't believe in the duopoly. If the Green parties, I don't know if my Green party's on the ballot in North Carolina or will be on the ballot in November. If they are, I will passively vote for them tacitly. If they're not, probably will not vote, abstain. Having that said, if the duopoly wins, I'm talking about the Democrats win, I hope they do the right thing and impeach Donald Trump, have it taken to the Senate and have him convicted. When they can do what they can to utilize the 25th Amendment, meaning that he'll be considered mentally unfit for office. Don't even have to lock the man up. Just declare him mentally unfit for office and, remove from office under the 25th Amendment. And that's what needs to be done. So, and if any MAGA people are upset by and have your feelings hurt by me saying he should be fucking removed from office, bite my asshole. Just go and lick my asshole right now. So that's what I have to say. Because while the United States pretends to be a free country, I will utilize that First Amendment on how I feel about things. So I will say this. Mark Levin is a neoconservative. He is the neocon's neocon. And so he loves what Donald Trump is doing. He loves the fact that Donald Trump is sucking Benjamin Netanyahu's cock at nonstop. That everything that Netanyahu wants, Donald Trump will go out of his way to make sure. I mean, Donald Trump is already pro-censorship as it is. But the censorship that we're really going to be suffering from is more coming from Israel than it is from Donald Trump himself. And because when you tell the truth about what's going on in Israel, the Israeli government wants to make sure you're going to shut up about it, and they'll find a way to cancel culture you over it. Think of Palantir. Kim Iverson did a video on that, and I'll be playing some Kim Iverson, not related to Palantir, but related to foreign policy. On something else, Venezuela mostly, and Iran actually. But the thing is that they're going to try to shut you up because you got to criticize Israel. If they can't destroy your reputation, they're going to make sure you will lose your job. They will make sure if you have a platform, if you're some kind of a public figure, like my channel could get shut down, maybe a week or two, or have a video. Of course, I've had my video taken down, not necessarily for criticizing Israel, but I could see it happening. I think I've been shadow banned for Zach on Twitter lately. I've been shadow banned. I've been having followers being taken away from me, and having nobody comment on my sections, and nobody liking what I have to say. And for somebody who has around 1,700 followers, that's just a little weird. And I think it's because I'm shadow banned. Because somebody who has 1,700 followers, which is not the largest, it's not the smallest around, but you got 1,700 followers, you're going to have more. You're going to have somebody commenting. You're going to have a couple of people commenting. You're going to have a couple of people liking. You'll have some people saying, "Hey, I disagree with you." Don't even get that. Because the reason I say that, because I argue with all kinds of people on Facebook all the time. I engage a lot on Facebook, whereas on Twitter, I don't really get a lot of interactions. And in some ways, I prefer Twitter in some ways, even though it's under control of Elon Musk because strangely enough, I don't get why some progressives talk about right-wing people on Twitter. Yeah, they're awful. But here's the thing. I can avoid right-wing people a hell of a lot easier on Twitter than I can on Facebook. I just block them. Or if I don't, I will leave a few around. I don't follow them, but there's a few around that they, I may want to peek at the nonsense that they have to say, but if somebody is commenting on my section and they're getting too belligerent about it, getting fucking retarded, like somebody the other day with a Eisenhower quote telling me how much of a loser I am for being a socialist. And I told him that Einstein was a socialist. And he claims that's a myth that you liberals created. I'm not a liberal. And I'm just like, okay, you're a bot and you're not to be taken seriously. I went and blocked it, because, that's something not worth discussing. But the point I'm trying to make about Mark Levin, and I've gotten all over the place again, is that Mark Levin has one influence of Trump, even though he was a never Trumper. And so that's quite telling right now. It is. Being pro-war is fashionable. Greenland, with Venezuela taking over, Trump kidnapping Maduro, you have some of that base going rah, rah, rah. But you had people like Governor Kasich of Ohio condemning Trump, which is, that's to be commended. I want you to listen to what Ben Shapiro had to say recently. And let's see, share a screen. And that's what I'm going to do. It's called Iraq Syndrome. So listen to this dumbass.
Nation building, a project that lasted years and cost over $1 trillion and cost the blood and lives of thousands of American troops. And ever since, critics of American foreign policy have basically revived the Vietnam syndrome in the form of an Iraq syndrome. The idea that every single conflict in which the United States is involved must become Iraq or will become Iraq. Not, contra the usual definition, a justified skepticism of intelligence findings or fear of nation building, but again, a full-scale restoration of the Vietnam syndrome. Every single foreign policy intervention is supposed to become Iraq or Afghanistan. You hear this repeated ad nauseum from the horseshoe left and the horseshoe right. Nation building, a project that lasted years and cost over $1 trillion and cost the blood and lives of thousands of American troops. And ever since, critics of American foreign policy have basically revived the Vietnam syndrome in the form of an Iraq syndrome. The idea that every single conflict in which the United States is involved must become Iraq or will become Iraq. Not, contrary to the usual definition, a justified skepticism of intelligence findings or fear of nation building, but again, a full-scale restoration of the Vietnam syndrome. Every single foreign policy intervention is supposed to become Iraq or Afghanistan. You hear this repeated ad nauseum from the horseshoe left and the horseshoe right. Nation building, a project that lasted years and cost over $1 trillion and cost the blood and lives of thousands of American troops.
Ben Shapiro, the little pipsqueak who can't sexually satisfy his wife. And she didn't quite have the heart to tell him that. She had to break it down. That's a story in itself. Guy who's been wrong about everything. The fact that he has a fan base. Is the album, or is the album one of the other chipmunks? Yeah, pretty much. The fact that he's been wrong about everything is astounding at times. You know, that he's got a fan base. I mean, you know, and I just, and he was another never Trumper, by the way. He didn't vote in 2016. And he became a big fan of Trump over the policies. Now, given the opportunity in 2024, he backed Ron DeSantis because Ron DeSantis is a normie compared to Trump's bad comb over and bad manners. Ron DeSantis has etiquette compared to Donald Trump, but he is ideologically more right wing. And I would say that maybe Donald Trump probably, and between Florida, living in Florida, learning from the cruelty of Ron DeSantis, and the Heritage Foundation's Project 25, having yes men around him, I would say that Ben Shapiro is probably pretty damn content with Donald Trump right now, especially on the foreign policy side, with, you know, trying to go out of his way to please Netanyahu. So, you know, I mean, you know, with the Democrats, I mean, they're really no better because some of them want to go back to the other direction as they were during the Bush-Cheney years, a little bit contrarian, and they're going to go into the more peacenik direction while they have a narrative going on too on their side. She went ahead, call it compulsive contrarianism, and she's on to something about that. She did that on her Hell World series years ago, and I wish she'd bring it back. She was good at that. And there is something about that. I just don't understand people sometimes, you know. But what I do understand is even though I don't like the outcome either way, I like the fact that what's his name is in tears, referring to Lindsey Graham. We'll let Kim Iverson explain. And Lindsey Graham can, by the way, eat shit.
Well, apparently the U.S. was on the brink of striking Iran and halted at the last minute.
The U.S. military had presented strike options for President Trump to consider, but could not guarantee the regime would be overthrown. The U.S. military posture in the Middle East was not ready for a decisive strike. It had no aircraft carrier in the Middle East because the Pentagon ordered the USS Ford to the Caribbean.
They can't decide on which war they want to start.
Just 3 destroyers and 3 littoral combat ships were in the Middle East, half the number of U.S. warships ships currently stationed in the Caribbean near Venezuela.
Reports are varied, some claiming Trump didn't go through with it because the strikes wouldn't take out the current government. Others say it was the Israelis who talked him out of it.
Did Arab and Israeli officials convince you to not strike Iran?
Nobody convinced me. I convinced myself.
I don't understand why we need to be involved in this at all. If the entire point is just to strike some of their oil refineries or weapons depots or wherever, Israel's been doing that for years. So why do we even have to be involved at all? Because they want to start a war. And it's not just the Israelis, of course. Have you ever seen Lindsey Graham look so sad? Look at this.
There are a lot of headlines out there that are, in my view, not accurate. President Trump's resolve is not the question. The question is, when we do an operation like this, should it be bigger or smaller? I'm in the camp of bigger.
He looks so sad. After being so gleeful like a kid on Christmas morning, he's now so sad that the strikes didn't happen.
Well, I mean, you know, you have the closeted Lindsey Graham, you know. I mean, he can't get his cock hard anymore. Seeing a missile, you know, flying around, you know, because those things get them hard. So it's like seeing flying penises, you know. So that's the thing about Lindsey Graham. And you know how Lindsey Graham gets when he sees a flying penis. So he's just the worst. And it's not because I made a gay remark about him. You know, his being gay might be the best thing about him. His being a neocon warmonger is one of the most despicable things about him. And having an attitude about how righteous he is about it is what kills me, you know? That's why I can't stand about Lindsey Graham. He's one of the worst people in existence in the U.S. Senate. Anyway, the neocons are back, baby. They're back. They never really gone away, but it's like 2003, 2004 came in and said, hey, 2026, we're here. We're back. Bush-Cheney, we're in the administration now. We're here to continue things, Donald. And this is how we're going to do it. And that's basically the point right now. Welcome back to 2003, folks. This is where we're at. Fox News is acting like it's 2003 again. I mean, you know. And if you oppose war, you're just a bad person in these people's eyes. Well, they think I'm a bad person. Fuck them, you know? I don't like people getting killed or getting hurt. I believe in negotiation. I believe that you know, that when the unaliving stops, we're all better off. If you think I'm a fucking hippie, I go ahead, think that, or what have you. That's pretty much what I have to say about it. And that the anti-war right, just as there's no populist right, there's no anti-war. There are individual conservatives who are anti-war. In that regard, I guess you could say an anti-war right exists of sorts. But, you know, institutionally through the Republican Party, it can't be achieved. You know, it just can't be achieved because, you know, the Republican Party, since the days of Reagan, that structure is still a thing. And that structure is not going anywhere. And, you know, that's just how it is. I'm getting very tired. I'm getting very tired, as you can tell by my yawning, just because I work graveyard shift and I slept all day when I'm off at night. sometimes I actually go back and sleep like a normal human being, and that's probably where I'll be doing fairly soon. So I will say more than likely this week on Tuesday, unless otherwise posted. Otherwise, I've said otherwise several times. Dwight Welsh should be on. We'll have Dwight Welsh on this week on the Willie Bragg Show. Then the week after next, I got me, Warren, and Laney. We need to discuss a proper time, but we're going to have Laney and Warren from the Undercurrent as guests the week after next. And then I'm going to start again trying to do a guest every week on here on the Willie Bragg Show. And we'll have a good old time doing this great thing. How unprofessional when I yawn on the air. Okay, so let me talk to everyone here on the chat line real quick, and then I'm going to be turning in. So let me do this real fast here. And my apologies again for my drifting off. I get very tired quickly. So talk to see who I didn't talk to. I didn't talk to Chuck yet. Chuck UFO Show. Chuck Intergalactic UFO Show. CI would never have let Orange Whippler in the Russian-Ukraine proxy war. CIA. I gotcha. CIA would never let Orange Whippler in the Russian-Ukraine proxy war. I gotcha. And you're correct. You're correct about that. CIA. And I know what you meant now. Now I know what you meant. Hi, Miguel. Commissioner K. Uncle Warren. Let's see. CBC voter. Okay. And everybody's kind of good. Everyone. Oh. Let's see. Okay. Iraq War was training for Minneapolis. And Minneapolis, here's the thing about Minnesota. Minnesota is the new California to bash. You know, and Tim Walz is the new Gavin Newsom to bash. And my opinion is that Tim Walz is not perfect, but he's basically a better Gavin Newsom, but he's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So I will say that much. All right. Okay, we have here, and pardon me for butchering these names, Forrest Carusi or whatever. Trump wants to liberate my home country, which is Iran. If you want Iran liberated, this is if you're Iranian, there is one way to have it liberated. And I got the tweet for you, by the way. And let me go and find that tweet. I put it up last couple of days ago. And you should be patient with me. Within seconds, I have the perfect tweet to answer that concern. Because I probably won't do it because I'm always tired, but I really do a video on it. Yes, right here. This is where I stand on Iran, folks. If you want to know where I stand on Iran, this is where I stand when it comes to Iran, right here. All right, let's see. Okay. If someone can bring back Mohammed Mossadegh back to life and restore the socialism and the secularism to Iran, which was stolen from them in 1953 by the CIA, everyone needs to shut the fuck up about invading the regime change and bullying Iran. In other words, I'm opposed to invading Iran. I'm not necessarily opposed to the changing of the government of Iran. I'm not a fan of the government of Iran. I don't care who that offends, but I think that the USA meddling in them would make things worse. That's where I stand. The CIA is proof of that. So, so this is Mohammed Mossadegh, who was the former president of Iran. They nationalized the oil companies back then. They were not a communist country, but if anything, they were center left. It was a social democratic government, more like Norway, Sweden, Great Britain, even, which they had previously had a labor government in the 40s and early 50s. It was something along those lines. If anything, it even had a government similar to Israel. They had a labor government in Israel. It was called United Workers Party. So it was a center left government, basically. It was not a communist government, but it was too far left for the United States to allow to exist, because they had a close relationship with the Soviet Union. That was just not acceptable. So what they did is they went and toppled the government of Iran and put in the Shah. And the Ayatollah Khomeini was very loyal to the Shah until he wasn't. So the CIA caused the problems with Iran today. The Iranian government today is a byproduct of what happened in 1953 with our CIA. Our CIA is the cost of Iran's present government. So if we would have left Iran alone in 1953, we would not be having the problems that we have today with Iran. That is where I stand with the thing. So there we go. That's my position. Enough said. History's on my side. There we go. Okay. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that. Let's see. We have Lloyd Trackwell. I haven't seen you in a while. Thought the bots were real. And let's see. Do we have any other newbies here? Let's see. We have DLS. I think that's how you pronounce the name. How are you doing? All right. We have anybody else? All right. I guess that's kind of it there. So anyway, I'm out of here. I'm incoherent right now. If you like what you heard, please press like and comment any way you disagree what I have to say. We will have a conversation. As the First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platforming and utilize it. That's where the muckrakers of our time. So feel free to muckrake. Reject corporate media. Subscribe to the Willie Bragg Show. And remember, everyone, free Maduro, free Palestine, free healthcare for all, keep our First Amendment free, and fuck ICE. Good night. I will see y'all in a few days. Take care.